Before the day begins, before the noise returns, before the world asks anything from you, stay here for a moment. Do not rush this. The morning does not need your strength yet. It needs your attention. Most people wake up already late. Late in thought, late in emotion, late in direction. They open their eyes and immediately surrender their mind to urgency. But wisdom never begins in urgency. It begins in stillness. The Bible often speaks of waiting, not because waiting is passive, but because waiting trains the heart. To listen, to discern, to submit. We are taught to start the day by doing. But Scripture suggests something different. It suggests we start the day by aligning our thoughts, aligning our motives, aligning our desires. Because effort without alignment leads to exhaustion. You can be productive and still be lost. Take a breath, not to calm yourself, but to remember, you are not the center of this day. And that is not a burden. It is relief. There is a wisdom in beginning the day by admitting you are not in control. Control is heavy. Trust is lighter. Most anxiety comes from trying to carry what was never meant for you. Jesus said, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Not because tomorrow doesn't matter, but because worry blinds you to today. Today has enough responsibility of its own. Wisdom does not ask you to solve your entire life this morning. It asks you to be faithful in what is in front of you, nothing more, nothing less. The world rewards speed. Scripture honors faithfulness. Speed feels impressive, faithfulness feels quiet, and quiet things are easy to overlook, especially in a culture that measures worth by visibility. But wisdom has never been loud. Proverbs speaks as if wisdom is calling out in the streets, not shouting, calling, meaning it can be ignored by anyone in a hurry. This morning is not about becoming powerful. It is about becoming grounded. Before ambition, before goals, before plans. Ask yourself something honestly. What am I carrying today that does not belong to me? Expectations, comparisons, imagined outcomes. Lay them down. The Bible calls this surrender. Not weakness, but accuracy. You cannot serve wisely while pretending to be infinite. There is a limit to your strength. There is a limit to your understanding. And wisdom begins where pretending ends. Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time for everything. A time to work, a time to wait, a time to speak, a time to remain silent. Most of us confuse these seasons. We try to force harvest during planting. We demand clarity before obedience. But wisdom reverses the order. It says, obey first, understand later. This is uncomfortable for a modern mind. We want explanations, justifications, certainty. But faith was never built on certainty. It was built on trust. And trust is a decision you renew daily, especially in the morning. As this day begins, you do not need motivation. You need direction. And direction does not come from intensity. It comes from alignment. Ask not, how can I get more done today? Ask instead, what is the right way to walk today? The narrow path is not narrow because it is cruel. It is narrow because it is precise. Not everything fits on it. Not every desire, not every ambition, not every shortcut. Wisdom trims before it grows. And trimming feels like loss until you see what remains. Remain here a little longer. Let the day wait. You are not late. You are preparing. As the day slowly wakes up around you, there is a quiet temptation to hurry, to rush your thoughts, to rush your decisions, to rush your identity. But wisdom resists speed, not because speed is evil, but because speed makes you careless. Scripture often pairs wisdom with patience, not productivity, not efficiency, patience. Because patience forces you to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Before you step into your work today, consider this. Work is not just something you do, it is something you offer. The Bible speaks of work as stewardship, not as punishment, not as self-expression. Stewardship means you are trusted with something that is not fully yours. Your time, your skill, your influence. When you forget this, work becomes either a burden or an obsession. You either resent it or you worship it. Wisdom keeps work in its place. It reminds you that effort is meaningful only when it is aligned. Many people are exhausted not because they work too hard, but because they work without purpose. They give energy to things that do not give life back. That is not diligence. That is misdirection. The Bible never glorifies busyness. It glorifies faithfulness. Faithfulness does not ask, how much can I do? It asks, what is mine to do? And those are very different questions. Today, you do not need to carry everything. You only need to carry what is assigned to you. There is a wisdom in limits. Jesus rested, not because he was weak, but because he understood rhythm. Work, rest, prayer, silence. These are not competing activities. They are companions. When one is missing, the others suffer. As the day unfolds, you may feel resistance. Resistance to discipline, resistance to focus, resistance to doing the quiet work that no one sees. This is normal. The Bible does not deny human weakness. It assumes it. That is why wisdom emphasizes practice over feeling. You are not asked to feel ready. You are asked to be faithful. Discipline in Scripture is not self-punishment. It is devotion. It is choosing what matters over what feels good. It is showing up when emotion does not cooperate. And here is a truth that often gets overlooked. Discipline is a form of love. Not love for comfort, but love for direction. You discipline what you value. No one disciplines what they do not care about. So when you struggle to stay consistent, do not shame yourself. Ask instead, what am I actually valuing right now? Wisdom clarifies values. It strips away the illusion that you can serve everything equally. Scripture is clear. You will serve something. The question is not if, but what. As responsibilities begin to stack today, remember this. You are not meant to carry the weight of outcomes. You are meant to carry the weight of obedience. Results belong to God. Effort belongs to you. This separation is crucial. When you confuse the two, you become anxious. You start trying to control what you were never meant to control. And anxiety grows where trust is absent. The Bible often uses agricultural language for a reason. Planting, waiting, harvest. The farmer does not pull the crops to make them grow faster. He tends the soil and trusts the process. Your work today is soil work. Attention, integrity, consistency. You may not see immediate fruit. That does not mean nothing is happening. Wisdom teaches you to respect hidden growth. Much of what matters develops underground. Character, faith, endurance. These things form quietly. As you move through this day, watch your thoughts. Notice how quickly they drift toward fear or pride. Fear asks, what if I fail? Pride asks, what if I succeed? Wisdom answers neither immediately. It redirects. It asks, is this right? Is this faithful? Is this necessary? These questions ground you. They slow the day down without stopping it. There will be moments today when you want shortcuts. Shortcuts in effort. Shortcuts in honesty. Shortcuts in patience. Scripture warns against these not because they are dramatic sins, but because they shape habits, and habits shape character. Character, in the end, shapes destiny. You do not need to win today. You need to walk rightly. Let that be enough. As the morning becomes afternoon, do not measure the day by what you have achieved. Measure it by whether you remained aligned. Alignment is invisible to others, but obvious to your conscience. And conscience, when trained by wisdom, becomes a quiet guide. It will not shout. It will nudge. Listen to that nudge. Not with fear, with humility. Because wisdom is not trying to control your life, it is trying to direct it. As the day moves forward, there comes a moment when effort must give way to trust. Not because effort is finished, but because effort alone was never enough. Wisdom knows when to release. There is a kind of rest that does not come from stopping, but from letting go. Letting go of outcomes. Letting go of imagined futures. Letting go of the need to prove that today was meaningful. Scripture speaks often about peace, not as a feeling, but as a posture. A posture of the heart that says, I have done what I could. The rest is not mine. This is difficult, because control feels productive, worry feels responsible, anxiety feels like preparation, but none of them produce life. Jesus spoke about burdens not to shame people for carrying them, but to invite them to set some down. Not all at once, not dramatically, just honestly. Some burdens were never assigned to you. You were not meant to carry the weight of tomorrow today. You were not meant to manage everyone's expectations. You were not meant to measure your worth by visible results. Wisdom invites you to return to simplicity, to remember that faithfulness often looks ordinary. It looks like continuing without applause. It looks like choosing integrity when no one would notice otherwise. It looks like trusting that unseen obedience still matters. As the hours pass, you may feel tired again. This is not failure. The Bible never promised that obedience would remove fatigue. It promised meaning. And meaning carries you through what motivation cannot. There is a verse that says, God gives rest to those he loves. Not always by removing work, but by removing the weight of striving. Striving is what exhausts the soul. trying to be enough, trying to be impressive, trying to arrive. Wisdom teaches you to stop striving and start walking, one step, then another. Not asking how far you are from the destination, but whether the step itself is right. You may not feel peace immediately. Peace often comes later, after obedience, after restraint, after surrender. This order matters. Modern thinking says, feel peace, then act. Wisdom says, act rightly, then peace follows. As the day continues, you will encounter uncertainty, decisions without guarantees, effort without assurance, prayer without answers. This does not mean you are doing it wrong. It means you are living faithfully. Faith has always required movement without full clarity. Abraham walked without knowing the destination. Moses stepped forward with limited understanding. They were not brave because they felt sure. They were faithful because they trusted enough to move. You do not need heroic faith today. You need quiet trust. Trust that doing what is right is never wasted. Trust that unseen obedience still shapes who you are becoming. Trust that God works even when you cannot track the progress. Let your pace slow. Not your commitment, your pace. Rushing does not honor wisdom. Endurance does. There is grace in not finishing everything today. There is humility in leaving some things unresolved. Wisdom is patient with incomplete days. As this time of reflection comes to rest, do not rush back into noise. Carry this stillness with you, not as something fragile, but as something grounded. You will be tested today by urgency, by distraction, by temptation to abandon alignment. When that happens, return here, not physically, but inwardly. Return to the simple question, is this faithful? If the answer is yes, continue. If the answer is no, pause. Wisdom does not demand perfection. It asks for attention, and attention practiced daily becomes discernment. Discernment becomes direction. Direction becomes peace. You do not need to force this day to be meaningful. Meaning is already present when you walk rightly. Let the day unfold. Do your part. Release the rest. And trust that becoming better is not something you achieve, it is something you practice. Quietly, faithfully.